Okay, let's start putting this carburetor back together. I've got one of these carb repair kits, although it's not exactly right, although it was sold as for a CB350 1972. I don't think that is correct. Reason being, firstly, the float well O-ring which is supposed to go in there. It's a little bit tricky. Normally put a bit of grease or something in there, just hold that, a little bit of white grease, but you can see basically that's far too big. So I've ordered some correct shape ones to go in there, so I won't be able to do that bit. So that bit was incorrect. There's this part here which I don't even know what that is for. Don't know whether this is focusing very well or not. It's a bit chilly in here today. Doesn't work too well in the cold, this camera. Yeah, so I'm not even sure what that is for. So that won't be getting used. There's also this aluminium washer which doesn't seem to go anywhere. The spring clip which holds that part in the vacuum slide, you compare that to the old one, it's a completely different size. You can see that or not? So that won't be being used. I shall have to retain the old one, which seems perfectly okay anyway, so that's just as well. The air screw, which is in the kit, is completely different to the one that's in the carb. This has a thread on the shank. The one out of the carb has a thread at the head end. So that won't be getting used. And the other thing was, the spring, which probably goes with that mixture screw, that won't be getting used. So basically I'm down to these parts here. The needle is numbered differently. This has got D20Z on it, although when I did look on the forums it does seem to be the correct one, so that should be okay. The float valve has got 2.2 stamped on it, which the old one also has 2.2 stamped on it, so that should be fine. The main jet, this only came with the main jet, no what they got at primary. This is a 115. The one that came out is a 105. So that's different, but I did read that it's a bit mix and match what you get in the jets and the carbs anyway, so I'm going to go with that. The primary that was in there is a number 68, which seems to be one of the other sizes that is fitted to these carbs, so I'm going to have to go with that. Although I have seen these, so you either have a 68 or a 70 in this carb. I have seen 70s online, so if I do find it doesn't run that well, I can always get one. And the other thing is the what is this called? The slow jet Let's see how cold it is. Even magnifying glass is steaming up. That's pretty cold in here today. Yeah, that is a 35. That's the old one. And the new one is a 38. So again, that's slightly bigger. But it probably won't matter because of the filters that I'm using. I'm not using standard filters. I'm making my own. So I've already made them. Yeah, so I'm going to assume it's going to let a little bit more air through. So hopefully this will all work okay. Right, assembly. Firstly, oh yeah, this kit also doesn't come with emulsifying tubes, which some of them do. And this was a handler kit, by the way, so I would recommend not getting one of them because they just seems a bit crap, really. What is in it? Yeah, so emulsifying tubes, they should be perfectly okay. So we've got this one here which has got this little slotted end in it, and a taper on the bottom. That goes in this hole here. So I'll just put a little bit of 2-stroke oil on that just to ease that in. So that just drops in there, and it is just a press fit. A little bit of aluminium, a little bit of brass. That's a bit too big. It's something a little bit smaller just to press that in there. It shouldn't be a tight fit, so yeah, so that's home. Then you've got this other, which is the main emulsifying tube. Again, just put a little bit of oil around that. It's only 2-stroke oil, so it'll soon burn off. And that one is a little bit tighter. And a little bit of a tap. There's a little tap. A little bit of a tappy tap. Right, so that one's home. Next thing, this, which is again, I'll put a little bit of oil around it, which is the float valve, and that should just press in very easily like that. That is retained by this little clip, which, as you can see, is angled. Hopefully you can see that. And the downward part, obviously this is like spring steel, so the downward facing part goes down. And in fact you can see a witness mark there where the old screw was fitted in, so you can tell that is the right way around. It goes on there, and little screw to hold that in. Not on there. So that's that part, and the slow jet, if I can get hold of it. Right, this one does have a thread on it. I'll just put a bit of oil around that. And that goes in this one here. Need a small screwdriver for that. Doesn't need to be too tight. Does until it nips up. And there's a little rubber bung goes in there, which actually feels that's a little bit of a, I think some of the kits even come with those, which is probably a good idea because they probably do, well, they could easily drop out, I guess. Right, so next I will drop in the float needle in there. Then we've got the primary and secondary jets, what I'd call that main jet really, and they fit in these two, top of these tubes here. So that would be primary and secondary or main, and they're retained with this little spring steel clip, which these will only go in one way. One of these cutouts is slightly bigger than the other one. So there we go in there like that. Again, a little bit of oil will not go amiss. Probably would be a good idea for a new O-ring on there if you've got something to fit. That's one that was out of the old, or the existing one. That one's a new one, which obviously got a new O-ring on it. But I don't have one to fit that, so that is going to have to chance itself. And that just presses in like that. So when the float bowl goes on, pressure on that actually holds them in place. Yeah, next, float, which is just retained with that pin through there. Now, float height. In the Haynes manual that I've got and the Honda service manual, float height for the CB350 is stated at 19mm. However, that is for the square float carburetor, the earlier ones. The round float, like this one, is actually 22 to 23mm on the float height, so that is what I'm going to go with. And just use a vernier for that. And that's measured off the base here, the surface, gasket surface, and the top of the float. And it's a little bit fiddly. So just touch that. That is on 23.08. That's not too far out. And I probably won't even bother to adjust that. Just check the other side, because one can be slightly higher than the other. Yeah, see, that's 22.87. So I think that is in spec. I'll go with that. That's about all I can do for now. I can't really do that part. Just goes in this end. Don't really want to be messing around with that until that is on. And like I say, I'm waiting for a gasket for that. Hopefully that'll be here today. What else? Oh yeah, there is actually a drain plug to go in there. I think I've probably got needs an O-ring on there. I think I probably have got one to fit that, so I'll find that. And yeah, I mean, that just screws straight, fairly straightforward, goes in there. So I'll find up an O-ring, do that, and that'll be ready to go on when the gasket turns up. Yeah, so if your float height was out, what you do, a little pointy thing, all you do is bend this tang here up and down very gently until you reach the desired height. I've got this flat on here when I did my measurements. Some people tip them up. I've done other carbs, I have done them like that, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of difference really. The weight of this, that on the spring, that float is kind of needle is spring loaded. There's a little spring loaded bit in the end. That isn't really going to make, you know, weight of this isn't really going to make a lot of difference, having that at an angle to flat. So I think I just go with measuring it flat for ease really. You know, if you've got the top out like this, that's a good flat surface, stable for that to sit on. Yeah, so next thing will be getting this on and then doing the slide. Yeah, once that's done, that's basically ready to go on. Oh yes, didn't do that either. I've got to find up a O-ring for that. So do that now. See, that will go. Yeah, I think that one will be okay. Right, so the air screw or air mixture screw just goes in there. So order of assembly is spring, washer, O-ring, if I can pick it up like that. I'll just get a drop of oil on there. Drop of oil on the thread. Right, make sure that stays put. Just screw it in that way. Right, so that should be base setting for that, as I can remember. I'll check this later, but so basically screw that in until it nips up, and I think it's 2 turns out is your base setting. Obviously once the thing is on the bike and you tune it up, you can fiddle around with that. So it's half, 1, 1.5, 2. Start from that point. Right, so that's fairly straightforward. Right, well, they turned up pretty quickly. Float bowl gasket from Wamoto. Only opened them, ordered them yesterday, and yeah, looks like that should be about right. So put the other one up there. Hopefully I'll be able to sort this out now. If I'll stay put. I think what we'll do is just run a little bit of white grease around there, just to hold it in place. Just stick that down, because the last thing you want to do is nip it up when you tighten it. So you want to stay put, really. Try and get any excess out. Right, hopefully that will stop anything moving about. That one there. And screws, which I think are these slightly longer ones. 4 of them. Let's have a quick look. Hopefully that will all go down square. I think it looks like it's nipping up, or stop and go back, but all feels okay. Right, hopefully that's sorted that out. Got my drain plug in. Now I'm going to do the top. Left-hand carb. Which is this one. Left hand. Just give this a quick check over. Yeah. Right, let's just make sure it is free moving in here before we go any further. It's going to be that orientation, because one of these was a bit sticky. Must have been the other one. Right. So new needle. Which is hard, and you think, to get in the middle. One little top hat bit, which goes over there. And this funny little spring, which is going to be a little bit tricky, I reckon. Best way to drop it in. This little groove in there, you have to kind of get it in a little, get the ends in the groove. Right, I don't know if you can see in there or not, that little clip. It's in that little groove, which is what holds that in place. Right, so got that spring. Right, this is an original one, which has got the little nib there. Which corresponds with that little cut out there, and that is so this goes in the right orientation. There is two little holes there, they have to be facing the right way. Which is towards the inlet. So, because I think if you get replacement ones, I don't think they have the nib on. I think that it's just perfectly round, so you have to kind of line the slide up. Right, is that in? Yep. That feels a little bit tight down the bottom there. Yeah. Why is that? I'll just get in there with a little bit of Scotch-Brite. I think this might have been the one that was sticky. I know one of these was. Another go. Can't see anything on there. There's the new needle, isn't it? That definitely feels a little bit sticky in there. I wonder if these needles are correct. Just measure that against the other one. I think that's an old one. 2.46. I wonder. Is that another old one? 2.46. 2.5. So the needles are wrong as well by the looks of it. Let's try putting the old needle on and see if that makes any difference. If I can get this clip out. Right. The old needle. Yeah, you can't really see any difference, but then such a small amount. That's better. Yeah. Those needles are no good either. I reckon you'd have to change the emulsifying tube as well for that new needle. Right, well that's in there now. That's moving freely. Right. So out of all those parts in that kit, there was hardly anything that was of any use. Right, where's the lid? These aren't very good. The chrome is starting to come off them, but they work, so that will have to do for now. And there should be some slightly shorter screws. Which are these ones? Right, that should be that for that one. Just want to give this a test. So I'm just blowing down these holes here. You can hear the slide going up and coming down. Right, that's that one. So I'll just get that other one with the carb back together, get these on the bike, link them up. I have to synchronize them, or check the synchronization. Shouldn't have gone out, but you never know. And if I get the pipes on, might even have a little start up, which would be nice. Okay, now just going to bench sync these two carburetors for the idle. So what I'm going to be doing basically is adjusting this screw here, just making sure I'm in shot, because I've got the camera off to the other side. Yeah, so what I want to do is to make sure that these, when they're at rest, are both sitting at the same position. So when you adjust your idle with this screw at a later date, you basically move each one the same amount and they'll stay in sync for the idle. This is for the idle, not for the throttle sync. Yeah, so if you move this one quarter turn, you'd move the other one quarter turn, so you keep them exactly the same, but you need to get a base setting first on both of them. So all I've got is a very thin piece of wire, and I'm just going to get that in there. So I'm basically more or less between the two little holes that are in there, and just going to use that as a feeler gauge really. So I'll just open this, or open it, close this up, the screw here, until this pulls out, which is quite a way to go. Probably the thinner the piece of wire the better. So there, that's now sliding out. So that's that one set. I'll now do exactly the same to this one. The actual how far that is open is not really important, it's just the fact that they are both the same, really. That's what you're aiming for. And screws on this side on this one. Just turn that in until it starts to make contact. Let's do that again. About there. Right. So they are now both set the same. So when these go back on the bike, I can attach the throttle cables, and we'll actually do the throttle sync proper. And then once we get it running, we'll then sync these up on the idle. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Makes sense for me. I know what I'm doing, but yeah, hopefully you'll get the drift. Yeah, so basically these are set the same at rest. Yeah, there's obviously no cables on here or anything at the moment, they're just on the stops there, on these, at rest on those stops. Yeah, okay, I'll get these on the bike now. Right, carbs are fitted. Try and explain the cable synchronization now. If I just twist the throttle, you can see, hopefully, they are both moving. However, you'll notice that one there on the left, or on the furthest away, is moving before the one closest is. So what I need to do is take some slack up in the cable, the one that's furthest away, so they both move together, which is just basically a case of adjusting this here. Yeah, until they both move together, and that'll be the synchronization pretty much done. And once that's complete, we'll be able to start up, well, once I've got the HT caps on and the exhaust on, and some fuel supplied somehow temporarily, and can then adjust the tick over and get that set. But yeah, that's basically just a matter of adjusting these cables now till they move together. Hopefully you can see is pretty much moving together now. There's a little bit of a kink in the cable which will need to come out with use, so that will probably need a little bit of a tweak up again, but that's pretty close. So that will do for that, I think, for now.